All right. Hello. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Awesome. Yeah, glad to have you and me on here
Yeah,
together
I'm
today.
really excited to talk about all this. We've been planning this for quite some time.
So first of all, this is my brother Tyler. I'll have him do an introduction in a minute. But my name's Christian. I am the founder and lead coach for Iconic Legacy Coaching, where I help 20 and 30 somethings figure out exactly who they are, what they really want, and ultimately how to get there. Right. So today we are coming together. Although we do very different things, we're coming together to talk about a common thread. It's not just common to us, but it's common to so many people, almost no matter what industry you're in or no matter what your interests are. We run into the same thing. And so we have two parts today. The first is sustaining success mindset. And the second part that we'll cover is overcoming obstacles. And we know that this is major. This is something that everyone really runs into. And this is something that I get a lot of questions about from my clients and from people that I just have conversations with throughout my week. And so I was like, Tyler, let's get together and let's talk about this. Tyler has a lot of experience with both of these, with all that he's done, which he'll tell you about. I'll just pass it over to you, brother. Go ahead.
Alrighty, sounds good. Well, to refer back to what you're talking about by what all I've done, I recently am on my last semester. I am on my last semester of college at UCO, University of Central Oklahoma. I am studying to be a bachelor's of arts of music. Wow, that is a tongue twister, right? And I am getting my minor in music production as well. I have done all of those things for years now. I am classically trained in most instruments. I as well have branched out to multiple arts, I think would be the right way to put this. I am trying to create and start and be the CEO of my own company, Eston Entertainment. You can find me on Facebook, YouTube, etc. I am an entertainment agency, etc., where I take different arts and I would love to grow and support them. But first, I'm aware I must support and grow myself first. So if you would like to check that out as well, that is how you could support me. I pretty much do video production, music production, musical performance, design, clothing design, a whole bunch of different things, acting.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's essentially it to sum it up.
Awesome. Yeah. A man of many talents. Music, production, acting. I mean, you've even, I know you took some acting classes, so you really have done a lot of things, and you have spent many years learning how to do this. So I know that mindset's been important to you, and I know that overcoming obstacles has been major. But before we jump into all of that, I would love to just have you tell them, he plays so many instruments. Just tell us,
oh my gosh.
like, I know it's kind of hard to like list all of them because there's too many, but it's just crazy, and I'm always like super impressed. So tell us at least like a few of the instruments that you play. Just give us an idea.
Well, let me stay humble about this, I guess. But since you I've been classically trained throughout my 5 years of college on piano, harp, oboe, French horn. French horn is my main instrument. Flute. What else? There's so many I can't even name them. And then on the sideline for about 10 years now, I've been self-taught on guitar, electric bass, and drum set as well. So yeah, very, very versatile with my abilities and instruments. Yeah, amazing, awesome. What ADHD can do, right?
Right. I know. You've definitely put a lot of time and effort into it, and so that brings us kind of to what we're talking about today, which is sustaining a successful mindset, and even building that successful mindset up for those who don't have it quite yet. So I know you have some points for us today. I'd love for you just to jump in and tell us what you have. What are your suggestions, or what do you think is most important for sustaining a successful mindset?
Well, I have a couple of points for this, and I'm glad you asked. So we're going to do an outline real quick. So we have persistence, having and building a good support system and continuous education. Now we're going to start with persistence. Persistence, it comes in many versatile ways and can be looked at from so many different views. But persistence as well is only one thing. You have a goal and it's pursuing toward that. I think this can also lead back into what we were going to talk about for our second topic, which is overcoming obstacles. But persistence, it comes from motivation of self and outside sources as well. It comes from motivation from your why, from what you're doing it for, from all the other W's, right? Now, it's also a bit of self-obedience too. Persisting through obstacles, persisting through those mindsets, persisting through those bad days, it's all because you have this one goal. It is okay to make mistakes. It's okay to have bad days. More often than not, I hate to sound pessimistic with this, but more often than not, you will have bad days. It's just the truth, but the good days will always outshine that. Now, I want to move on to my second point while I have that. Having and building a good support system. Wow, this is literally it's so important. I can't reiterate that enough. As an entertainer, like, an audience is wonderful. As a entrepreneur, as a coach, people literally, of course, are our support system. This is why we are doing what we're doing, obviously. But it's a small group. It's the behind the scene people, the people that were there before anything else. It's having and or building the small group. You're not quite where you want to be yet. That is okay. But let's take a minute and look at that support system. If you don't feel like you have a satisfactory or above satisfactory support system, how can we build that? That is the question. Building it, who supports you the most? Who do you want to spend the most time with? What are these sources influencing to you? These are a couple questions to ask when you look at all the people you surround yourself with. But to get back to the main point of it, having and building a good support system is like your structure. Like, you can do a lot of stuff by yourself, but you will be lifted if you have a good support system. It doesn't require a lot of people. It really doesn't. I would say my support system is built out of like 3, 4, 5 people maybe. That's about it. And I've never felt higher in my success. So now on to my last point before I talk anymore, right? On to my last point, continuous education. I'm not talking about college. You don't have to go to college to be successful. I'm not saying that it doesn't help. I'm not saying it's the right way or wrong way. There is no right or wrong way to educate yourself. We in this generation have so many, like, an incredible amount of ways to educate ourselves. We have books, YouTube videos, podcasts. We have these live videos. We have so many ways to get education. It does not have to be school. Like, school is the quote unquote societal, I guess I could say, I don't know, way of getting an education or learning or the piece of paper degree. And as a person who has gone all the way through college, as an entrepreneur, it's nice to have this degree. It's nice to have the people, nice to have all the experience, blah, blah, blah. But when it comes down to it, it was the education and what I took out of it, what I could also take from YouTube, reading books. It's like education can be found everywhere. I promise you, college is not the only answer. Go to school if you want to, though. It's all up to you. It's on how you want to learn. It's how you want to write your story. Alrighty, now I'm going to go ahead and pass that off to you if you'd like to recap and head on to your points or give your thoughts on what I exactly said.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really loved everything you said. So you said persistence. You said having or building a support system, which I think is great. I love the way you said having or building, because not everyone has a really great support system. And a lot of people are really like fed up with others. So I think what you said was important. Like, it doesn't require a lot of people. It requires a few high quality
Yeah.
relationships. And as an adult, it's really our own responsibility if we don't have a good support system to build it. It doesn't usually just come along. Sometimes, like, life does hand you a really great person. I can
Yeah.
think of examples, but I have, had to ask myself, how can I get around other high achieving people? How can I get around other people who
Mhm.
value the same things that I do? Because I was often in environments where I wanted to go somewhere else, and the people I was around really didn't value
Yeah.
that. So I had to, I'm going to get into some of that actually a little bit later in my points on overcoming obstacles. But I just think what you said is so important. So even for people who don't have a great support system, I love that, like, build one,
Yeah.
and then, yeah, what you said about education, like, there's a million different ways to do it, but it's really
Yeah.
about, like, what you put into it and what you take from it, right? Like, doing it is the most important part. Like, commit to educating yourself in whatever way, but, like, don't lie to yourself and say, like, I'm educating myself by reading one book a year. Like, if you want to
Yeah.
do something, like, you've got to put the same umph into it that you would if you were in college and you had deadlines and you had
That's a good point.
money,
Yeah.
on the line. um so much, so much goes into it, but yeah, you can educate yourself, so there's no longer the same excuse of, well, I couldn't go to college. Like, the libraries are free, there's Audible. I just loved
Yeah.
everything you said about that. So that's really, really important for people who are looking to
Thank you.
sustain that success mindset. So I have a few points on this as well today.
Wonderful.
So my number one point for sustaining a success mindset is clarity. Clarity is something that anyone who listens to me a lot, like on my podcast or on my live videos, there's probably like, he's still talking about clarity, because it's really the beginning of all, it's really at the beginning stages of achievement, is getting clear. Most people are clear about where they are, right? And most people are not very clear about where they want to go. So people who come to me say, well, I have this problem, or this is going on, this is the situation. They can give me a pretty clear idea of their current circumstances, their current feelings, their current mindset. And I say, absolutely. So this is where you are. So where do you want to go? And they're like, well, I don't want to feel like I currently feel. I don't want to feel bad, or I don't want this to be happening. And I said, no. I didn't say, tell me what you don't want. I said, tell me what you do want. Right. And people are like, I don't know. And right. And you have to, like, draw that out a little bit more, because most people haven't sat down and gotten really clear about what they want from their lives, what they want from their feelings, like their emotional states. Right. And so when you sit down and you do the work, because it is work, to get clear about what it is that you want differently from what's currently happening in your life, whether that's your thoughts, your feelings, behaviors, or circumstances, to me, that's one of the first steps about sustaining your success mindset. Is you have to have clarity on where you want to go. Because if you don't have that clarity, right, from point A to point B, you feel really lost. You feel stuck. You feel in a rut. You aren't sure what to do next, because there's no compelling vision for the future, and therefore you won't be taking action on it. So your days will just be filled with, like, reacting to whatever happens, right? We get sucked into being very reactionary, and we're responding to everyone else's requests on our life and all the emails that come in and our boss's needs. And if we have families or spouses, that you get pulled into, like, dealing with all those needs, and then you don't feel purposeful. So I think clarity is number one for sustaining a success mindset. And the second part of this is conditioning, which can also be called repetition. Conditioning is when you do something over and over and over again until it sticks. It's like when you learn your phone number by heart, right? The first time you get your phone number, you might have to, like, keep looking up at, like, what was it? And then you just do it enough that eventually someone asks you, and you know it by heart, right? You know what that means by heart. It's like you could just pull it out. You could be asleep and somebody could ask you, what's your phone number? You're like, 30332. Like, you've got it, right? And so the same thing is true with, like, our success mindset. Once we get clarity about, like, what our goals are for the future, the emotional states that we want to experience, and the kinds of thinking that we would rather have, you have to condition those in. You do them so many times that they become by heart. And that is work as well. Just like when you go to the gym, you can't just go one time and lift 300 pounds that day and now you're fit, right? You have to start small. You can work up, but it's about going day after day. You don't even have to go 7 days a week, like 3 or 4 times a week is enough. But weekly, you're focusing on the repetition of making that happen for yourself. And I think that's part of sustaining the success mindset, is saying, how can I repeat this over and over until it's natural for me? Because if what you're used to is not great, then that's what you've conditioned in, right? Your current circumstances are your habits. Conditioning is another way to say like habits. So if you don't like where you're at, condition in something new, and that takes time, and it does take effort and consistency. The third thing I have, that I think is just really important, is to protect your mindset. I call it keeping a tight guard over your mind. So this has to do with several different things. This has to do with like the way that you think to yourself in your own mind, like getting on top of that. Like, how is my self-talk? Like, am I supporting myself, or am I not? It also means keeping a tight guard over other things that come to your mind. Like, what kind of shows and movies do you watch? What kind of music do you listen to? Not, if there's no problem there, then that's not a problem. But if you're saying like, I'm not loving the way I'm feeling, I'm not loving, my environment and everything like that, like, what are you putting into your mind? And then the people that are in your life, are you spending time around people who, are agonizing over their life? Like, is it a big pity party? If you are like more ambitious, do you have people that look at you like, I don't know if you can do that, or that worry over you a lot and tell you you can't do this because they're worried about this could happen or this could happen. So it's like, in what you have to ask yourself, like, in what areas of my life do I have to put a tighter guard over my mind? If it's your environment, it could be something as simple as like really cleaning up your environment. And that can even be a metaphor. Like, if the people you're spending time with are not being supportive, it doesn't mean that you get rid of all your friends and family, but it does mean that you get really honest with yourself and where you're trying to go, and say, maybe I need to spend a little bit less time with certain people. Just like a lot of times friends and family do this thing called ridicule. Ridicule is kind of like an insult that's played off to be humorous. And so sometimes when we set out to change or to do something different or to achieve a big goal, we get ridicule, which is like, we play it off like, oh, we're just teasing you, we're just playing, but really it's like still underhanding, like insults and stuff. So you have to ask yourself, like, either how, if I'm going to be around it, like, how can I think differently so that I'm not letting that affect me, so that it's keeping me down? Or maybe I should spend a little less time. Like, I've got friends that are like day-long friends. Like, if we go hang out, I can spend a whole day with them and it's wonderful. And then I have friends that are 1 hour friends. I can spend an hour with them, but I may not spend the weekend with them. So you don't have to leave everybody. You don't have to cut everybody off. Sometimes maybe you should, right? Certain people, if it's actually toxic, maybe. So for me, again, for sustaining a successful mindset, those are some of the most important things that come to mind as far as like dealing with building that or having that. So let's just move into part 2, unless you have anything else, which is overcoming obstacles. I think this is super important. Anytime that you set out on a goal, you are going to have to overcome obstacles. So I know you have some great points about that. I'm going to pass the mic.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, sure. Overcoming obstacles. Oh, wonderful. I loved all the points that you said previously, though. That was a lot for information. That was a lot of information to take in, and anyone listening will probably have to go back and re-listen to all this to fully like encapsulate what all just happened, because it's like both of us just gave so much information.
Right. That's
like,
the beauty of like it being on video, right? They could just
exactly.
take notes, guys.
So now with overcoming obstacles, I actually don't have many points for this. I only have one that I want to specify on. I think I want to lend most of the talking to you. Because I know we discussed a few really awesome points, and I think I want people to focus on those points that you have, because it blows my mind what you have to say. Sometimes it's wonderful information. Now, my one point, though, is practice and or be willing to normalize or take in mistakes, obstacles, all this, because it's a part of the journey. It's as destructive as it may be, sometimes it is a beautiful part of the journey, because you can either grow from it, learn from it, or you can be stopped by it. The point is of our speaking though today is for you to trust in yourself and just the journey in general, that mistakes will always happen. Mistakes, obstacles always will happen. That's a promise. But it's like, are you, again, as I said, I'm going to reiterate, are you learning or growing from them? Now, to talk more about it, I'm going to give a story. Going through all these different things that I've learned, I've made more mistakes than I have made in success. But my success was so beautiful and so powerful that actually it did overcome all the mistakes. Because the thing is, the best part about mistakes is they don't always have to be seen. They're not always seen. It's mainly just you. And the crazy part is when you make mistakes, you get in your head and you're like, oh my gosh, I made a mistake. But who saw it? Who knew about it? Half the time you make a mistake, no one knows about it but you. So breathe. It's part of the journey. It's the beautiful part of the journey. It's the growth. Mistakes will always happen. Right in the schedule. That's about all I have to say.
I love it. I totally agree with what you're saying. You know, like, I just love the way that you put it, you know, like, be willing to sit with the mistakes, like be willing to have them. Like that's, you know, as far as overcoming obstacles, like being willing to have them, right? Because people like do not want obstacles and they do not want mistakes, right? They're like trying to avoid it and being very perfectionistic, quote unquote.
It's scary sometimes.
Absolutely, especially if you don't know that it's totally normal, right? So I think that is part of what we wanted to do, was like really normalize this process of like failure and mistakes and obstacles. So, you know, for me, my first point is similar to what Tyler said, and it's expect them. Expect them. Anytime, I always say this, I've said it more times this week than I can even tell you. Anytime you set out on a worthy goal, you can expect obstacles. They are right around the corner. Anytime you set out, especially if you set out on something that's really important or really powerful, something that's really going to change your life or someone else's, just know 5 or 10 minutes from now, okay, your first obstacle is going to arrive. So when it happens, you don't have to be so shaken. You don't have to be knocked completely down. You don't have to fall on your face, right? You could just be like, oh, there it is. And that means we're right on schedule, right? So you've really got to expect obstacles to come up. And so we're going to, you know, get a little bit more into like how you actually deal with those obstacles. But first, I just want to say, like, don't fight that. You know, I used to set out on these great goals to change my life or to make an impact or to build something. And then something would happen and I would just really let it exhaust me, and to the point that I would stop, right? And I would feel a lot of like negative emotion around it, like fear, embarrassment, shame even. And I would let it knock me off my track for such a long time. Or I would say things like, look, it's a sign that I shouldn't be doing this. I tried to do this and something got in the way, and that means that I shouldn't do it because everything just works out how it's supposed to. And, you know, there may be some truth to that, but really things work out how we make them work out, or how we neglect to make, you know, them work out. Things don't just happen, right? You know, and like I said, it comes back to like being reactionary. If you just let things happen as they will, then someone else is going to build an agenda for your life. And they're going to, you know, recruit you to help them build their goals, right? You don't want to just drift, you know, metaphorically through life. Like nobody got to Barbados like on accident. Like you've got to go there intentionally, right? You got to set a path. So the second thing about actually like dealing with those obstacles is to model success. Model success. Super important. For me, when I got started in personal development, self-improvement, life coaching, all of that stuff, it was because I needed it so much, really bad. I really struggled, especially in my early 20s, you know, from 18 to like 25. I mean, I had a rough time, and I spent my time in a lot of really negative states of mind. I didn't know how to do things that you should know how to do as an adult. And I suffered and I struggled as a result of that. And what changed for me was when I began to look up things just even on the internet, like, because this was my thought. My thought was, I am so messed up that I need the best stuff, because just regular stuff is not going to work for me. I need help, I need results, and I need them now. I can't wait another 3 or 5 years to like have a better life. Like, I need help today. I need something quick that works. So for me, I started looking up on the internet things like world's best life coach, or world's highest rated therapy. Like, I mean, I started to the common theme was like highly rated whatever it is, or world's best this, or best book on this problem, right? I was looking for the very best. I wanted to see something that had a lot of high ratings. I wanted to see stuff that worked. And you can do that for any goal, any dream, or any obstacle that you're currently experiencing, because I can almost guarantee you that someone else has been there before. And this is something that one of my coaches said to me that I did not love when I first heard it, but they said, anyone who, it said, any obstacle you're dealing with, somebody else has dealt with and figured it out. Right. And I was like, oh, you know, it was like kind of a hard truth, but it made me be really honest with myself. And I also went through all these classes and seminars where I experienced other people who had gone through really awful things and experienced a lot of difficulty, some far greater than I ever have. And the same thing was true for them, though. Like, other people have dealt with this same obstacle. This has happened to other people. And the good news is, like, we have this wealth of knowledge in our libraries, on the internet. There are coaches, there's mentors, there's therapists, there's counselors, there's, you know, bishops and reverends, like, depending if that, you know, there's so many ways to look for what works. And so you've really got to model success, because success leaves clues. And so just to finish up on this, whatever goal you have, look for who's done it already. Look for who did it and built a roadmap, because I can almost guarantee you, if you get on Amazon, or if you go to Barnes and Noble, or if you go to your local bookstore, if you look online and you can ask who's done this, and there's probably a lot of resources, you know, to make that happen. So model success, look for what works, and then do what they did, model them, copy them, right? And same thing with your obstacles. You can look for who's overcome that obstacle. So my last point on overcoming obstacles is a lot of what Tyler talked about, and sustaining a successful mindset. Build a support system. If you don't already have a great support system, build one. Now, a support system can consist of a lot of things, and it's not just people. A support system can look like habits and routines that you build that work, right?
That's good.
Let me give you a simple example. Right, we know about the effects of exercise, not only like on our physical bodies, but on our mental health. No joke. No, like, sometimes people like close their eyes to this. You can look at any university study, like there's so many of them. It's like super conclusive, right? Like, a mild to moderate amount of weekly exercise has a significant effect on our mental health and well-being and how we feel. And it's as simple, I think, I can't remember the data, you'd have to look it back up, but I think it was like 20 minutes of brisk walking 3 times a week can make like a pretty significant difference in your mental health. And and don't take that lightly. I'm not saying that mental health crisis or that mental health problems aren't real, but I'm saying, like, why don't we do the fundamentals, the things that we know work? We don't want to shortchange ourselves. Maybe you need something in addition to that. That's probably, you know, that may be true, but like the simple things that we can control that are easy to access, right? That's a support system. I exercise 4 or 5 times a week, because the more I exercise, the better I feel. Also, the more, as I get older, like I'm nearly 30, and you know, you feel things slowing down just a little bit. It's just, you just feel the difference, right? And so I know that if I want to keep my stamina, my energy up, the truth is, I've learned over the years, the more I exercise throughout the week, the more energy I have. And then when I don't exercise, like for a month, I feel awful all the time and I feel sluggish and stuff. So that's an example of a support system that's not another person. It's a habit or routine that enhances your life and keeps you on the right track. Another one of those examples, and I'll just give 3 and then we'll wrap this thing up. But another thing I do is a weekly review. In fact, me and Tyler just got done doing a pretty good weekly review this last Sunday. That is a support system that took me time to get used to doing. Like, I would fall off with it and then I'd remember and I'd get back on track and then I'd fall off again. So I just kept re-implementing it until it became a habit, right? Until I conditioned it into place. But for me, that weekly review where I can look at like what didn't work, what did work, and what would I do differently, like that's a support system. And then last but not least is the people that you interact with. So you can ask yourself, like, who do I look up to? Who do I admire? If you're not sure, just like spend a little bit of time thinking about it. Like, as I grew up, like, what was there a movie like that I really admired the character, or was there a book I read that I admired that character? Like, and what about them did I admire or look up to or think was cool or that inspired me, motivated me, whatever that is? Like, who do you admire and what are those qualities? And then ask yourself, like, how can I get around other people with these qualities? Where do they hang out? Where do they spend their time? Do they go and do volunteer organizations? Do they go spend their time at this, depending on what you want to do, maybe they go to these types of concerts, these types of shows. Maybe they're in these types of Facebook groups or online groups. So there's ways to find the support system. So it's not necessarily that the resources aren't there. It's about our level of resourcefulness, which means using the resources and being aware of them. So again, expect obstacles, model success, right? Dig into that. Ask yourself how you can model success. Who's done it before? And then look at the different support systems for yourself, for the habits and routines that you build, and for the people that you spend time with. So, before I wrap us up here, Tyler, did you have anything you wanted to add? Here's my question, Tyler. I actually have a question for you.
Yeah.
Do you have any last thoughts for anyone who is like listening to this, that has had a really difficult time building or sustaining a successful mindset, or who's had like a really rough time, like dealing with obstacles in their life? Like, do you have any like just parting encouragement or parting words like for them that they should remember as they move forward after they leave this video and they're not here with us anymore?
I think that there was a lot of information in this video. And if you listen to it a few times, as I was listening to you speak and focusing on what I think I was talking about as well, and even looking back here at the notes, so many of these points are tied together. Like, we probably ran over each other's like points like five or six different times. It's like, well, this is a wonderful foundation. If you are just now starting or looking for the light at the end of this dark tunnel or this dark place that you're in, I think listening to this and seeing where this sits, where this where these topics and this video sits in your life, and where you sit in these topics, taking these topics and being encouraged by them, learning from them, listening to this, because these are wonderful points, and this is a wonderful foundation for your start to a successful journey. Awesome. I think that's about it, because I thoroughly did enjoy doing this.
Awesome. Yeah, no, this is great. I'm glad we were able to get together. Again, for anybody who wants to be able to reach out to you, anyone that resonated with what you were saying today, or who is interested in learning more about music production, acting, fashion, clothing design, all the things that you do, can you give them your links, your email, whatever it is you have, in case they want to reach out to you?
Yes, of course. All my socials are Eston, ESTON _E23. That is all of my socials. Now, my personal email for business inquiries, etc., is Eston Entertainment23, ESTON Entertainment23 @gmail.com. Yeah, I think that's awesome. I think that's pretty much it for me.
Yeah, so anyone who is interested in that and anything that he's into, feel free to reach out to him. He's very good at
I
getting
would love to
stuff and
talk.
helping people. As you can see, as he told you about, he's a man of many talents. So he can help you with a wide variety of things, especially anyone in the entertainment or music industry. As far as myself, again, my name is Christian Williams. I am the founder of Iconic Legacy Coaching. So self-improvement and life coaching is my jam. You'll always find me talking about those topics over at my podcast, which you can find anywhere that you listen to your podcasts, whether that's on Apple Podcasts or Spotify Podcasts. It's you can search Iconic Legacy Coaching. Also at Facebook and Instagram, same handle, Iconic Legacy Coaching. And I even have an email if you'd like to reach out with something that's a little bit more personal. You can email me at christian@iconiclegacycoaching.com. I do have a 5-week abundant life coaching program that's launching for the end of summer. So I'm running some specials as far as that, and everyone's been loving that's gone through it with me so far. I do some one-on-one, like one-off coaching as well. If you're in need of some thoughts or some guidance, some structure, any of that stuff, I'm super happy to help. So reach out to either one of us. You will hear from us again in the future doing a video similar to this one. So thanks for tuning in, and thanks for being here, Tyler. It was great.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I really enjoyed this. This was fun.
Awesome. It was fun. All right. Well, bye for now. Okay.